Hello guys and welcome to the latest A Different View. Today we'll be doing something in advance. The upcoming patch notes for Fiora will have some changes to Olaf as shown in the patch preview. These changes can be seen in the PBE notes. We'll be taking a look at that. I do have quite a lot of contour plots for you today, so get ready to think and I'll try and tell you what they mean. Let's get into it, eh? So getting right into it, let's take a quick look at the patch notes that the Olaf change is indicating. So actually first let's take a look at the current Ragnarok. So currently you get passive armor penetration, which is about 10, 20, 30. This will not change with the patch, so don't worry about that. What does change is this. When you activate it, you become immune to all CC for 6 seconds. There it is. What's going to change is that the passive you gain while in the ultimate is 20, 30, or 40 damage reductions based on what level. This is going to change to 30, 45, or 60 armor and MR. You can see that right here. Wow, it's a straight line. Okay, so you can see the underline right there. So you can see that you're going to get a bit more armor and MR instead of standard flat damage reduction. So firstly, what is flat damage reduction and what is MR? So when I say MR, I also mean armor and resistances in general. I just like to use MR, it's an easier term to use. So any resistance reduces the incoming damage by a certain multiplier. So if you have someone saying, let's say Brand's Pillar of Flame is hitting you for 500. What you do is you go 500 times 100 divided by 100 plus your current magic resist, because Brand does magic damage. So if you have, let's say, 100 magic resist, 100 plus 100 is 200. So 200. So you got 100 over 200 is equal to 0.5. So this bit is equal to 0.5. So damage was, what would it say? 500, was it? So 500 times 0.5 is equal to damage done, which is equal to 250. That's pretty messy, but I hope you got the point across. It's a multiplier based on the amount of resistance you have, and the damage is reduced by that multiplier, or that scale, if you will. Flat damage reduction is simple enough. It reduces the incoming damage by a flat amount. However, an interesting point of note is that it's very effective against damage over time. Why is this? Let's say you have Malzahar. Let's say his Malefic Visions, his little little cloud thing that goes on your face, does 200 damage over 3 seconds, is it? Let's just call it actually 300 damage over 3 seconds. It does, let's say, 1 tick every second. So that's 100 every second. Over 3 seconds, that adds up to 300. Okay, so magic resist and would reduce each of these 100 amounts by the resistance. What flat damage reduction does is reduce each of these amounts by whatever his damage reduction is. It's not quite so obvious. Let me use another example. Let's say Brand's passive is hitting you for 25 4 times. And that's magic damage, remember? So that's at 200. If you had, that's standard. If you had MR, each of this would look something like, let's say, 13, 13, 13, 13. 4 times 13, that's 52, is it? 52. What flat damage reduction does is, let's say you have 30 flat damage reduction. Each of these amounts would be reduced by 30. So 25 minus 30 is minus 5. You can't take minus 5 damage. That's 0, 0, 0, 0. How much damage does Olaf take from Brand's passive? 0. If it's changed to MR now, how much would he change? You would still take some damage, except reduced damage. So obviously, there is a point where armor and magic resist are not effective against damage over time. So damage over time is heavily affected by flat damage reduction. So champions like Malzahar, Cassiopeia, Brand's passive, things like that will have some trouble against Olaf currently. After the patch, they'll be dealing a bit more damage to them. Now let's take a look at the damage reduction due to armor and MR. So let's say you're doing 500 damage. It's a nice amount. If you're having 500 damage and you have 150 MR, you'll be doing what? Let's take this across and down. That's slightly greenish. It's around there. So at this point, you can see that around 350 damage of the 500 damage is reduced. So you only end up effectively taking about 150 damage. So 150 out of 500. That's a small percentage. So you can see that armor and MR and all these resistances actually do add up and reduce the damage by quite a lot, depending on how much damage you're doing. It is a multiplier, as I explained before. So some of the smarter among you might have noticed that damage reduction would decrease the more MR you stack on. So for example, the difference in damage reduction from here to here will be more than here to here. Why is that? The multiplier isn't linear. So if you look at the formula again, 100 divided by 100 plus the resistance. So 100 plus divided by 200 is equal to 0.5. But if you had the same thing, 100 divided by 300, that's extra 100 resistance here, plus 100. Notice that you only end up having 0.33. So as you can see, the multiplier, it doesn't linearly scale down. It will never ever hit 0. So now that that's explained, let's take a look at the difference in damage reduction. So you can see, let's just take a look at the 1000 values, that's the easiest. If you add on 60 MR, when you have a base 50, the damage reduction increase will be 185, 190-ish. Here it'll be around 120-ish if you have 100 MR. Here it's going to be around 80-ish. So 190, 120, 80. So that's at 50, 100, and 150 MR. So as you can see that if you have more base MR, the added resistance from your ult, this is level 3 of the ult, will do less for you in terms of damage reduction. And that's for 1000 damage, remember. Okay. So example of understanding the graph is this is basically what I just said. At 1000 damage with 60 added MR, you'll be taking 70 less damage as opposed to if you only had 150 MR. So if you had 210, which is 150 plus 60, you'll be taking 80 less damage from a 1000 damage attack than you would if you only had 150 MR. Simple enough. Now, the results is basically, does the flat damage reduction outweigh the damage reduction you gain from resistance? It'll be the same graphs as before, but let's take a look at it with lines now. So this first pink line, that's level 1 of Ragnarok. Second pink line, level 2 of Ragnarok. Level 3 of Ragnarok. So what does this say? This says that anything to the left of the line is where the current, basically damage reduction, flat damage reduction, outweighs what's going to be the new Ragnarok. Why is that? Because in the new Ragnarok, if you had an extra 60, let's say 30 MR, because at 50, if you have 50 MR, it's likely going to be around level 7, level 8, which you have level 1 of Ragnarok. So you'll have 30 extra armor and MR. That's around here. And if you're taking damage from attacks less than around 200, your damage reduction will only be an added around 15, 10, 5-ish, so less than 20. And currently, if you had the level 1 of Ragnarok, you'd take 20 less damage. So less than 20 versus 20. The old one wins. The old one is the current one. The new one is the one that's going to come out in 2 days. Just to clear that up. Now, 50 base MR. So that's, as I said, on level 7 and 6. So the line of most importance is that one. Basically cancelling it out. It's basically the first line. 100 MR. This is the point where it'll be around level 13, 12, maybe around 15 even. So this is where the second line is of most importance. Level 2 of Ragnarok. So around this time you get 45 resistance with the new one and 30 reduction with the old one. So once again, anything to the left is where the old one, which is the current one, is better. So let's say at around level 13, how much does mage's each ability do? Brand would be hitting his Pillar of Flame for around 350, 400 say. And you would have 45 new Emma. So there. So it's right on the dot. However, keep in mind that AD carries still haven't built up enough damage due to consistently over around 220 per attack. So you'll still be taking more damage from AD carries. However, keep in mind that not all mages have a flat damage ability, and some of them do have damage over time. So things like Maltara, Cassiopeia, they will be doing slightly more damage to you as you don't have the damage per tick reduction that I showed you before. 150 MR, so this is level 3 of the ult. This is in-game. Around this time, AD carries will start having crit, and they'll be critting you for around 800, maybe 600. Lots of a high amount. So at that point, you will have 60 MR from the new ult. Let me just write that out. 60, 40, old, new. So 60 MR, unless you're taking more than 480-ish damage, the current ult will be better. However, a lot of AD carries do deal quite a lot of damage, quite a bit more damage with their attacks due to the crits. So this does favor the new ultimate. However, mages do fall off, and they'll be hitting around this mark. Keep in mind that they do have Last Whisper and Void Staff and Penetration, so that does make Armor and MR a little bit less effective. So it's around about the same, if not a slight buff, because AD carries will be the main threat late game. So slight. So let's scroll back up. We got 3 graphs. Let's say zoom out. Okay, so 3 graphs. So it's level 1 of ult, level 2 of ult, level 3 of ult. Level 1 of ult, about the same. Level 2, old 1. Level 3, new 1, but only slightly. So, a little fuzzy right there, so that means slightly. So, that does come to the end of my post. Do I have anything else I want to say? Yep. This is debunked. Olaf's ult is not getting significantly stronger. In fact, it is probably getting weaker for most parts of the game. And even late game, the buff is quite small. So it's round about the same. Slight nerf early game, slight buff late game. Nerf probably outweighs the buff. However, it's not a major change. Most players won't notice the difference. I hope you enjoyed that debunk, and I hope you enjoyed watching the video. I'll see you in the next video. Leave any comments. Like, subscribe, favorite, whatever you want. And I'll see you in the next video. Thank you. Bye-bye.